was awesome. Um, so Quentin, we have Quentin Walston today. Thanks so much, Quentin, for joining us. He has this amazing Instagram page, a ton of followers, a ton of engagement. It's just extremely impressive. He's putting a ton of content out there. He also has a new website called This Is Jazz, correct?
That's right.
And a brand new book. What's the name of the book?
How to Teach Jazz and Improvisation.
Yeah, amazing. So congrats on all that amazing projects. And
Dude.
how long have you been doing the page on Instagram? And when did you start? Why did you start?
The page has been up for probably a while, probably at least 5 or 6 years, but it was really about 2 years ago that I really started leaning into it, really started making a lot of content. It was right around the time that my youngest son was born. It was like I've got to make something happen. I'd heard some things about people mentioning posting consistently and stuff. I actually talked with Stephen Feithke, who's a great jazz pianist and band leader. And yeah, so I kind of decided to go for it, and I was making content every day, and sometimes it would be like, like a lot of jazz musicians trying to show off, trying to show their chops, and it wasn't really going anywhere. But I made a post that started kind of explaining jazz a little bit more, and that seemed to really get a lot of engagement. People seem to like that, and it really goes hand in hand with kind of one of my big concepts, one of my big beliefs about jazz is that when people understand it more, they enjoy it more. Like when I do my concerts with my trio, I try to give backstory. So you don't need to be like a music theory major or something like that. You don't need like a college level understanding of music theory to understand what's going on in jazz. So yeah, around 2 years ago, I started really kind of exploring jazz in that way, and then I went viral with the video explaining the I think the compositional merits of Take Five, and that got like 4.5 million views, and things just really started to soar from there. So
Yeah. And
yeah.
so are you still putting these out every day, or is it less consistent now, but still consistent, you know?
Yeah, less consistent now. I try to do two a week. I think I just put one out. It's a lot to juggle. I'm a full-time musician, so you're juggling the social media, juggling booking concerts, teaching lessons, building my website. This is jazz, writing the book, promoting the book. So it's been difficult, but I think the season of productivity was really good from the
Yeah, yeah.
in that
So what's
sense.
your schedule now? A few times a week? You'll put them out or a couple times?
Yeah. I try to do it twice during a weekday. So usually like Monday and Thursday or Tuesday and Thursday. Um it's tough. I mean, it's tricky, I think, from a like a reverse engineering standpoint, trying to figure out what do people like, what do they want to see. I know it's easy to blame the algorithm. Sometimes it's like, grr, why doesn't the algorithm show my stuff to all of my followers? But yeah, I'm kind of exploring things.
Yeah, it's tough to figure it out, and you need the hook, and scheduling is important, I find.
Yeah.
Consistent time, consistent place, which you do, right?
Try.
Um, yeah, but you have amazing engagement with your audience. I mean, it's incredible because I was, scrolling through your posts, a ton of comments. They get a lot of views, but it's mainly the comments that stood out to me. You have a ton of comments on each one of these particular videos. How does that happen?
I mean, I think people are really passionate about it. I think there are certain artists or certain topics that people are excited about. And like if it's Miles Davis or John Coltrane, people are really excited to talk about that. I think it's also the demographic. A lot of my followers collected the records when they came out, like in the 60s. So like that's super cool. I always love it when I get to meet someone. They're like, oh man, I met Dave Brubeck backstage, or I knew John Coltrane's uncle, like these weird things, and it's incredible. So I think sometimes it's, yeah, getting engagement just based on the topic. Sometimes I've tried doing things that I know will prompt engagement, and I try not to do that too much. Like I remember I did a post like does Frank Sinatra count as a jazz singer? And I knew that when I did that, it would be like throwing a match in a gasoline bucket or something, because that just erupted in all sorts of bickering. So yeah, try
Uh-huh.
not.
So you look for those little discussion points and everything.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's just incredible all of the engagement that you have. And I want to ask you about your speaking voice on camera. I mean, you have an amazing speaking voice. You seem natural. You seem to use your hands really well, the body language. How does that happen? Have you had a lot of teaching experience, or did you have to work on that, you know?
I appreciate it. One, I mean, I did drama in like middle school and high school, so I'm comfortable speaking. I think oddly one of the more beneficial things in my career has been these jazz history seminars that I do at retirement communities. So in the area that I live around DC, there's a whole bunch of retirement communities. And rather than just play background music, I'll play jazz history concerts. So I'll do like a whole hour talking about the biography of Monk and play through his repertoire. The same thing with Duke, and I'll do about 10 of these a month. And I've been doing that consistently for about 4 or 5 years. So I've gotten really, I guess, strong at speaking cohesive, like clear, as I stumble my words through the sentence. That's ironic. Yeah, I've gotten skilled, I think, at speaking clearly and cohesively in a way that people can understand. Because
And you
again,
said 10 a month. That's a lot.
yeah, I think
Yeah.
it's wavered. I think right now it's probably somewhere closer to 6 or 7 or something like that. But yeah, I mean it's and these gigs are super helpful because as a family man, it's nice to have daytime gigs, so I can be home in the evening. They're steady pay, and it's been really good to keep my chops up, and it's been really good to hone in my skills as a solo pianist, like
Hmm.
being able to do a full concert just me. So, yeah, it's had a lot of benefits. I think at times it's easy to like get down on yourself, like, oh man, I wish I was doing like a real concert, like in front of like a paying audience in a jazz club. But then you realize, like, man, this is like a group of 40 or 50 people that love the music and they're really excited to hear it. So it definitely has its benefits.
And they probably grew up with it too, because I noticed, you know, the people that are actually of that generation actually grew up with jazz as pop music, which is interesting. You know, there's not too many of them left.
No, I
But
mean, I've gotten to talk to people that met Charlie Parker, met
really,
Dizzy Gillespie. Yeah, and it's
wow.
crazy. And it's just like, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd love to hear those stories. Wow. You know, because I mean, that's like to me, Charlie Parker is Mozart. You know, it's like that
Mhm.
level of genius. But
Yeah.
um, and you know, I want to ask you, does is it enough to be a musician anymore? Just a musician? Do you need to be a business person as well?
I found you have to be a business person.
Mhm.
Like that's like I don't want to knock the current jazz scene, but sometimes it's hard. Like I know people that are doing the New York thing, and none of them, I think only one of them plays jazz exclusively. I think all the others have to be in funk bands and wedding bands. Some of them don't even live in the city. They live in New Jersey and commute into this. Like, it's so hard to just do music. Um, I mean, like selling records, it's like, okay, am I going to go the vinyl route and pay $10 to $12 per vinyl record, or do I go the CD route and pay 20 cents per CD, or 2 cents, or $2, I mean, per CD? Like, making money solely on music is so hard. And especially if you want autonomy for where you want to live, if you want to have a family, those both of those things were super important for me. So I've definitely, I think, tried to go more the entrepreneurial route.
Yeah. Yeah, same for me too. Like when you have kids, it wakes you up, you know, in a good
Mhm.
way, in a good way.
Mhm.
So how does one make that transition into being a business person, you know, adopting that mindset? Because it's a quite different mindset from being a musician, you know, being a creative
Yeah.
person and just worrying about playing your instrument well, right?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think for me, and this isn't like a one size fits all. Um, for me, it was I wasn't gonna take like a day job. Like, and it's not to knock people that do. I know lots of musicians that they have the day job and they pursue music. But for me, one of the things to keep my motivation up was you're out of college, you got a music degree, go use it. Like that's it. You find a way to make an income off of music. So that's been, and I've been doing it now for a decade. So and it things shift like it's always multiple streams of income. So sometimes it's a little bit more teaching, sometimes it's a little bit more retirement communities or grant work has been super duper helpful for me. So I think it's looking for multiple streams of income while having that motivation of I'm not getting like a steady salary or anything.
Mm. And a lot of musicians I find have trouble asking for money, meaning they're selling something, selling a product, for example,
Mm,
and asking for
yeah.
money that way. How does that transition happen in a musician's head?
Yeah, I mean, I think some of it is like understanding the value of what you have, like the value proposition. Um, Trying to think, like just the struggle. Are you asking more like the struggle of
Developing a product and thinking about it in a business sense and then marketing it and selling it, a lot of
mm,
a lot of musicians might feel it's like it's anti-art in a sense, just the whole
mhm.
business side of things. It's because those two worlds a lot of times just don't collide, right? So it's
Yeah,
just I guess getting thinking that way and knowing your value, right? And knowing that you do have something to offer and it's worth money, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Absolutely. I personally have had issues with like the concept of self-promotion. It's also, I mean, my faith, I'm Christian and there's like things about like not being haughty or not being self-centered or egotistical or prideful, those kind of things. So there's definitely been moments where I've like grappled with that and have to kind of figure out like, okay, I'm not doing this just to glorify myself. Like, look how awesome I am. Give me money because I'm awesome. It's more like I'm rendering a service, I'm providing a need, or I'm providing something of value. And just like anything else in this world, we trade value for money. Like if someone finds a book compelling or somebody finds a meal delicious, like it can be transactional like that. So I think sometimes we do have to do some philosophizing, you
Hmm.
know, to kind of like understand music is like, yes, it is art, but also it is something that has tangible value. Like yeah.
Hmm. And being a Christian, does that enter the scene when you're or enter the picture when you're performing, in terms of removing your ego and just channeling a higher power, you might say, through yourself as a musician? Does that almost help you be on stage and help you present yourself in front of an audience, to help you remove your ego in that way?
I think in a way it's sometimes been harder because
Hmm.
I think well like so like J.S. Bach, his thing at the end of a lot of his compositions he would put I think Sole Dei or Sole Dei, like basically for God alone, like they like this is for God. And I think that's really hard for a musician to divorce themselves of their self because like because you'd be like, man, I'm the one that practiced. I'm the one that worked hard. I'm the one that wrote the tunes, that rehearsed the band, that booked the gig, that advertised all this. And now suddenly I'm supposed to be pointing to someone else. Like, I think that goes against our nature a lot. And yeah, so I've had to wrestle with that. And again, it's there's a balance of like doing things excellently. Like it doesn't mean you're just going to beat yourself up and go, oh well, if God's so great, I must be really crappy, or who cares? Like I think there's a way of us doing things excellently can reflect God's excellence. So yeah, I mean it's getting into a lot of theology, but I think it's things that I've wrestled with, but I'm happy that I've done. Like another thing would be like, can it like do I, because I'm a Christian, do I have to do Christian music? Do I have to do Christian jazz, whatever Christian jazz would be? And I think the answer is no. Like I think everything can be honoring. So,
I
but
agree. Yeah, agree. But what are you thinking about while you're performing? Are you thinking about technique? Are you thinking about yourself?
mm,
Are you thinking about emotion? Are you thinking about God? What are you thinking about while you're performing?
I think it's probably a lot of just like micro thoughts all going on at once. Especially if I'm with my trio, it'd be like, oh man, that was really awesome. Let me respond to that. And oh no, it's dragging. Or what chord am I going to do here? Or oh crap, I didn't mean to play that. Like it's kind of all going off all at once. And then from an outsider's perspective, it probably sounds a lot more cohesive. Um, but yeah, I try not to, I guess, be too self-aware because then I think that is where you start messing up. Um, Kind of like I think I saw you're a bassoonist. Is that
Yeah,
correct? Yeah.
bassoonist. Yeah,
So when you're like in a recital or something and you're like, here's that really hard part. Oh man, this is the part you're gonna mess up. Don't mess it, and then suddenly you mess up. It's like you start
yeah,
thinking about yourself rather than the music. So I definitely have
exactly.
those instances as well.
Yeah, that's what I view mistakes as. It's putting yourself in front of the music. It's putting yourself between the source and the music, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, and then when you inject your ego like that, that's when mistakes happen, right? I feel like so.
Yeah,
You're right.
yeah. And I think oh, I lost it. But anyway,
Yeah.
yeah, that's very true. When
Yeah, that's
you
interesting to hear your perspective on that. And can you talk a little bit about practicing? How much do you practice? I know you're balancing all these different things that you're doing, the kids, the business, the all of these other things that you're doing. How
yeah,
much do you practice? When do you practice?
I wish I could practice so much more than I do. I am lucky if I get like 30 minutes a week. Like
Mm,
it's literally like that little. Unless you count like the gigs, like the solo gigs. Like that's a nice hour long chunk of playing. And those can be helpful because you're not allowed to restart if you screw up.
mm.
Um, but no, yeah, I mean, man, like senior year in college, I was practicing like 5 or 6 hours a day, and now it's like 30 minutes a week. So I
Yeah.
try to be, I still think I improve year over year. I think it's developing listening and trying to mature in the music away from the piano. And know that kind of sounds really corny, but it's like listening out for what I want my sound to be, and then when I'm in the concert, try to align myself with that thing that I heard before. So yeah, I might not get to shed all of the cool licks and ideas that I would want to if I had the time, but at least I can kind of work on the big picture ideas intermittently.
Yeah, so listening is a major part of what you do. You listen, you get the sound in your ear, and then you just try to be like that in a performance. So,
Yeah.
I mean, talk about listening a little bit. When do you listen? Are you listening to recordings all the time?
Yeah, I drive a lot between lessons and gigs and stuff, so those are great times to listen. Um, and yeah, I think I'll go through like periods where I really get deep into an artist and then I'll kind of move on rather. So I don't do as much of like topical listening, like in the fall, whereas in yeah, I think it was in the fall or the winter, I got really into Julian Lage. And it was just like everything he played and all of his albums and listening to an album again and again and again and again. Um, and not and like I think this also comes from me listening to vinyl a lot, is like I'll sometimes not know the name of a tune because I'm just listening to the album itself all the way through again and again. So that's been helpful. I'll return to my favorites, like Monk is still my favorite. Um, so doing that kind of, but yeah, I like listening to albums and I'm a very analytical person, so I can't listen without analyzing, which is sometimes a curse and it's like a blessing and a curse. And I'm sure you, being a musician, know that you're very familiar that like just automatic analysis that happens.
Yeah.
Um, so
Yeah, you can't have music on. I can't have music on in the background. It just you start
mhm.
listening to it too much. It can't be
Yeah,
white noise. But
yeah, absolutely.
yeah, it's a good thing, I think. But in terms of listening, so you have listening to recordings, so many different recordings. You have all these different influences, and then so
Mhm.
you basically have a sound in your head of what you want to sound like.
Yeah.
So when you go to perform, is it just a matter of hearing that a split second before the notes actually come out? Trying to mimic the sound in your head in real time.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean I guess the term is audiation.
Yeah.
And we want to get as close as possible when we improvise to executing whatever melodic rhythmic idea is in our head. And I feel like it's like one of those asymptote things, like those ever almost touching lines. Like I feel like no one ever is 100% there, but we get really, really close. And me too. And what's frustrating is the days where those lines aren't coming. Like the you don't feel inspired or whatever, and you just start regurgitating stuff that you've practiced. And that's what I'm trying to actively get out of. Like when we talk about things that I'm working on, I don't have time to practice it, but what I want to do less and less is regurgitate stuff that I practice. And it's incredibly easy to do on the piano where you can play something that's not actually in your mind's ear because I can push down whatever buttons I want and something's going to come out. Whereas like an instrument like trumpet or trombone or something, you have to really control that embouchure, be really intentional about the tone that you're making. Um, so yeah, so when I'm playing, what's nice is when I have like a really inspired moment, and yeah, the melodies are right here, and they're almost split second coming out at the piano as well. Some exercises that help is like vocalizing. I'll do that when I practice, like sing what you're playing, because that's also really making sure what's up here is connected to the fingers. Um, I got to talk with Stefan Harris, the vibraphonist and jazz educator. And he is just a brilliant, brilliant musician and educator. And just the way that he just plays such lyrical lines, it sounds like the voice, like his melodies are just so lyrical, or I guess melodies are so lyrical. So, yeah, I guess when I perform, I want to get better at that. But then I also love dissonance and quirkiness, which is harder to sing.
Mhm. So vocalizing is one exercise. Are there any other exercises that a musician could use to improve their ear, like a jazz musician would? So you just have total fluidity in terms of what you hear and then you play it.
I mean, I remember in college, one of my roommates would like almost to an insane amount would just sing back everything he heard. Like there'd be like a Brahms symphony on and he's singing back the melody. So I think like for someone that wants to start training their ear, like can you recognize those melodic chunks? Like when I first started playing jazz in high school, I remember the teacher put on this Buddy Rich recording of Love for Sale, and it was this burning tempo, and the saxophonist is just going off. And my ear was so underdeveloped that I couldn't grasp, like I couldn't connect the notes he was playing. It just sounded like this blur of pitches. One of my piano students is taking a music appreciation class, and he wanted to learn a bebop song. So we're learning anthropology. And I played the Charlie Parker recording, and it's too fast. Like he can't grasp the actual phrases yet. So I think if you listen and try to sing back, you have to train your ear to recognize and pick up those phrases, even if they get to 300 BPM or whatever.
Does slowing down a recording help with that? Or you don't recommend that?
I don't do it. I don't do it. I know some people do, but my cheat is I'll write down things. So if I'm transcribing, I'll write down my pitches. Where some people will slow it down and then they don't write it down. They memorize it from the beginning. So I don't think there's a specific right way to do it. But yeah,
So
my thing
singing
is it's
really
really
is
fast. You can do shorter.
okay. Oh, shorter. Okay.
Yeah.
So singing really is the answer because the way they teach ear training in music school, I'm sure you're aware, is a lot of it is listening, right? Like what interval is this, what interval is that, but that maybe is not as helpful as actually producing the tones, correct?
I think especially with jazz, because I mean, identifying intervals doesn't help you with articulation, and music notation doesn't help with articulation either, because the music notation falls short for jazz. Because swing can't be perfectly notated. The accents and the slurs and the ghost notes and stuff, if you notated every single one, it would be such a mess. But if you can sing like really understand all of those slurs and peaks and all of that, I think that's going to go a long way. More than just, oh, it starts with the perfect fourth kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah. So just start singing. Just start singing,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. So totally
So,
agree. That's what
and I
changed
haven't,
my ear too. Singing Bach
ooh,
chorales, really improved my ear, and it was the
oh,
main
that's,
thing. So
yeah. And people should know you don't have to be able to sing well.
yeah,
Yeah. Like
yeah,
I
because
can't,
that
I
because
can't
that's
hold.
another thing, right? I mean, singing in tune is a whole another thing because that requires muscle and the development of muscle. It doesn't have to be perfectly in tune, but it has to be the pitch, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So and what do you do, along those lines, if you're playing with a recording, do you play with recordings a lot, by the way, to absorb music, to learn music, or?
I have in the past.
Um,
I haven't recently. We had a teacher that would, yeah, have us play along with recordings when we transcribed a solo or to really get the nuance of the phrasing and stuff. So I think there's benefit to that. But I haven't
uh,
in a while.
but say you're trying to learn a run, there's a run that you've heard and you want to learn it, but it's just too fast for you right now at this
Yeah.
current moment. What do you do?
I'm stubborn. I'll just keep it at the full speed and just put little beads on a necklace, figure out the first note and then the next note and then the next note. But yeah, I mean, with YouTube now having the built-in slow down function, like there's a lot of temptation, and if a student absolutely needs it, one, maybe that lick is too hard for them, or two, yeah, you could slow it down if you need to.
Okay,
So
but you don't do that personally.
I
You're not a
don't do
slow downer. No.
I'm not.
So you just don't it just you just don't learn that way, or you don't think it's the best way to learn fast passages because you spend too much time playing slowly, or you just don't absorb
I
the
think
music in
if
context.
your ear isn't ready to hear the fast passage, then slowing down is like a shortcut for something that you're not hearing yet. Like if you're not like if you can't hear that line, you probably couldn't improvise that line then. Like, because if you're truly improvising, you should be hearing the ideas that you improvise. And if you can't hear that crazy, like, if you can't hear that off the recording, what are the chances that you in the middle of a solo would just crush something like that? Like, so I think maybe start off with the lines that you can hear and work your way up. Now, is that to say that like I can play fast, but if there's a fast recording, that doesn't mean I can immediately transcribe everything I hear on one listen. I still would need to sit down with it. But I think the idea is if you're transcribing to develop your ear, developing your ear comes in baby steps, just like anything else comes in baby steps.
hmm So when you're playing fast, you're hearing every note in real time, just fast. Every
Yeah.
note as it goes by, but fast. Yeah.
Hmm.
So it's
And
not
I
like
think,
the
oh, good.
blur, or it's not like a blur or anything like that. It's every single note. Yeah.
I mean, I think, yeah, or maybe like the shape of the phrase.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, I think the shape of the phrase can mean a lot. Like sometimes when I'm like if I'm gonna rip through an arpeggio, I already know what the arpeggio is gonna sound like. So I'm thinking maybe more of the shape of the phrase and how I'm gonna come out of it rather than ba 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 or whatever the notes happen to be. So um yeah, I think that
hmm
makes
But you're with every note as it goes by, meaning it's not like you're not blanking out from the on the bookends, right? Like the first note,
yeah,
the last note, it's just a blur in
yeah,
between. Yeah.
yeah, I would say so. I think that's a
Mhm.
good way to put it.
Okay, so listening is a major part of, and hearing is a major part of jazz improvisation. It's just you can't just memorize licks technically. You have to hear them first.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that that's touching on a really important thing about jazz pedagogy, because there are some teachers that churn out lick machines. Like they just churn out kids that they have a lot of fluidity, because one of the things that licks does give you is it gives you those fluid eighth note lines that just unfold and you have all that prowess over your instrument. But if you're just creating lick players, then you have a lot of players that sound the exact same. Like you just have a bunch of carbon copies. And I think, yeah, it might limit the ear, because it's like, how many of these things do you actually hear versus you're like, okay, insert lick one and insert lick four and insert like, I think it can hinder a player. Um, and then I guess on the flip side, one advantage of lick players is they do have a strong jazz language sound. Some players that go the other way and just try to build up with their ear, they might miss some of the nuance of the jazz language, whether it's the triplet runs or the enclosures or the subtly inserting the blues. Like a jazz improvised solo sounds different than a bluegrass improvised solo, which sounds different than a rock improvised solo, because of all the language elements. So lick players can have that benefit where
Uh-huh.
they're really entrenched with the jazz language.
Yeah, so they just have a lot of vocabulary and so on and
Yeah.
so forth. But just to summarize, so your technique is only as fast as your ear, you
Yeah,
might
I
say.
think it's a
Yeah.
really good way to put it.
Hmm. So if your ear is not good, your technique will be sloppy. You'll make mistakes, and so um,
Yeah.
it's probably
Or you'll not be truly improvising.
okay. Okay, yeah. And do mistakes happen when you're not really with that note in a sense? You're not fully present with that note. It's unclear what your body's supposed to do because it's not clear in your ear.
I think it just, the music doesn't get as inspired. Like you start falling back on the same old lines that you've played 1,000 times. Or yeah, the line just doesn't sound as musical as you want it to be. I mean, there'll be like micro mistakes. Like I'll be doing a line or something, and maybe one note in there isn't the note that I thought it was going to be in my head, but I just keep going. I think those kind of things are smaller mistakes. So I think there's micro and macro versions of that.
Okay, interesting. And you're a person that has how much vinyl do you have, by the way? Quite a bit.
I would
Seems like
hand
you.
the camera over here, but it's kind of messy. Um, yeah, sure. Well,
Oh, yeah.
so
Okay.
that's full. And then over here, this is all the
Oh, that's
like
your setup right there.
full. So that's
Okay.
like probably 15 or 20 miles. And then that's 15 or 20 Bill Evans, and that's 15 or 20 Monk. These three are all Duke. No, that's Coltrane, that's Monk. So yeah, probably somewhere in the hundreds. Um, I
Pretty well
started.
organized over there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
And
So
do you think there's something about vinyl, just the sound of it, the experience that helps you absorb music better than you would digitally?
yeah, it's harder to skip a song on vinyl. I think vinyl forces you to listen to the whole album. I think it like helps us as musicians, like, yeah, understand the whole intent of an artist. Now, admittedly, jazz artists in the 50s weren't always thinking about concept albums and track order and stuff like that, but you still get to hear the entire project. You get to hear all of the sidemen play, all of the solos. Um, yeah, I think vinyl does help that. I think it feels more valuable too. Like you feel like it's I don't know if it's a privilege, but it's something special to listen to music. I feel like I could put the exact same song on Spotify or something and easily disregard it or think of it as a lesser quality, even though it's the exact song. And even if it's better fidelity, because maybe my vinyl is filled with scratches and pops, like, um, so.
Yeah, maybe there's something about it being digital that it just blends into all the digital noise that we're consuming all day long. So the fact that
Yeah.
it's vinyl and analog, maybe it's separate. It separates itself in your brain a little bit more
Yeah.
and you absorb it better. Yeah.
And it's weird because like with digital, like I will so much easier skip a song, like just because I know there's other stuff on my playlist, but I won't skip a song on vinyl. Like I'll still just enjoy listening through the whole thing. So, um, yeah, it's weird
Yeah.
behavior from the same person, similar songs, but yeah, totally different just due to the format.
Yeah, it's not easy to skip a song on vinyl. You got to get up and move the needle and put it
You
in the
got to
right
make
spot.
sure it
Yeah.
lines up with the group. Yeah.
Yeah, you have to go stop it and everything. And I think that's an interesting idea too, because back in the 40s and 50s, people were learning songs off of records, right? But they weren't
Yeah.
slowing them down. They were just hearing it off the record like one or two times through, and you had less chances to get it right. And maybe that was an
Mm,
advantage in a sense.
that's a good point. Yeah.
Yeah, so you
Is
know,
that a reel to reel you have in the
I
background?
got a reel to reel back there. Yeah, reel to
Nice.
reel is I have quite a few of those too, and those sound amazing, by the way. If you ever
I've
want to
heard
nerd
that.
out, yeah.
I got I have some 8 tracks which don't sound amazing. But one of my first cars had an 8 track player and I my parents recently found the 8 tracks. They're like, here's all your old 8 tracks. It's like I have nothing to play these on, so I went to eBay and got like a $20 8 track player and it
They
sounds
sound okay.
they're very noisy. Like there is so much background noise. It's hard to believe they were ever like the cutting edge thing.
Yeah, it's really like they sound like cassettes, they don't sound very good. I think it's just the nature of the tape and how much is going through. But on these reel to reels, there's more tape going through per second, and they sound amazing. I got
Huh.
a Frank Sinatra reel to reel, and I was like, I put it on through some speakers. I was like, man, it sounds like he's in the room right now. It was amazing, just like the depth of the sound. But
Yeah.
it's kind of a nerdy thing, and it's hard to set up. You have to feed the tape through and all that kind of thing, and
Wow.
so it's and
That's
you can't
cool.
stop it. If you stop it in the middle, it gets messed up. You have to pretty much listen to the
Oh,
whole thing all the way through. So
oh man.
one of those types of things. But yeah, I highly recommend if you ever see one around. But yeah, and um, so this website that you have,
Yeah.
this is jazz, right?
Yeah.
And so how does that happen? I mean, because musicians, they can be so music centered. How do you segment a certain time, a certain place in your mind, and a certain amount of energy per day to devote to that project to even get it off the ground in the first place as a musician?
Yeah, I mean it started, man, how did it start? I mean, I guess there's kind of like a long version of it. I mean, so partly when all the Instagram stuff blew up, it was like I'm putting a lot of effort into this. How does this like become something? Like I want to provide for my family. Um, and like, okay, well, I have my own website and I was starting to make some courses and I have my album and stuff. And I was talking with my wife and she was like, well, maybe we can do like a digital thing, but also your in-person events, because you have unique styles of concerts where you kind of present jazz history and make jazz more accessible. Like, what if we had something like that? And that was kind of the germ of the idea over a year ago. And then I was like, well, like, what is this going to be called? And we were thinking for a while, and I came up with This Is Jazz. I because it kind of serves the mission right in the name. Like it's a way of presenting music, appreciating it, preserving it, and then kind of to your original question is like, well, how do we build this? Like, where do we find the time? And it's something that I do want to build and some be like a very long term project. Like this can be something that is multi-decade, just something that can really grow and be present in the jazz community or in the music industry at large. So with that knowledge, it was like it helped bump it up on the priority list. I have a close friend and mentor who's owns a brand agency, like around branding and digital marketing. So he has helped me out a lot with big picture stuff, like business plan, things like that. And then he was kind enough to set up the website for me and kind of hand over the reins. So I've done all the content, like the articles and the interviews and stuff like that, but he was the one that got it off the ground. And I'll still check in with him and stuff. But I think really what's helped is just that priority focus. Like, okay, if this is something that I want to be something that I can scale, and so I don't have to, grind teaching music lessons and driving to Alexandria every day back and forth. Like, I need to put time into this. So, yeah, sometimes, I mean, recently it's been getting up earlier because I was like, man, I have so little time. Like, when am I going to do stuff? And I remember I was like, okay, if I get rid of this gig, if I just scrap this one gig, that'll give me an extra hour a week. And then I was like, you know what? Or I could just get up at 5:30 and now I have look at all this extra time. So that's been a recent revelation, which I know probably makes a lot of musicians recoil to think about getting up at 5:30. But it's been hugely helpful. So I've been just trying to get up earlier, put in the time. Going to conferences has been really helpful just to meet people. The more and more I've been involved in the business side of music, the more and more I realize that whole networking is everything is true. Like when I was in music school, it's like networking isn't everything. It's shedding, it's practicing, it's like getting good at your instrument. And I'm really grateful that I did that because it's hard to be a professional musician if you're not good at your instrument. But since then, realizing how much networking has helped has been absolutely huge. So
Yeah, absolutely. And how do you work on a project without immediate financial remuneration and see it long term and still devote time to it every single day? Because it's not easy, right?
no,
To work for free, basically.
yeah, it's tough. It's tough. Like it's having to go lean, like a lean budget for a while, hoping that it pays out. Um, the good news is since I've been a professional musician for 10 years, I am not unfamiliar with things being lean budget wise. But yeah, so it's been that, and I think doing a lot yourself at least saves some money. So
Hmm.
um, and then, yeah, I think a lot of it is just learning how to do something yourself. Like I do, I'll grab the book real quick.
Yeah.
So this is the book. So like I did all of the artwork. I did all of the engraving for the tunes. I did all the writing. So I the doing Instagram and stuff has helped me learn video editing. So I do all the video editing for the advertisements. Um, Doing my own albums has helped me learn how to do recording and mixing and stuff. So I recorded and mixed and did all of the play alongs. Since I've done my own albums, I'm able to do all the distribution. So I think all of the hats that I've put on over the past decade have helped out with this kind of thing, of just that bootstrapping entrepreneurial approach. Because I think if it was like a private equity kind of firm and they're like, okay, we're going to start this business, it would be crazy expensive because you would have to hire all these people to do all these different things. So yeah, I guess
Yeah.
it's not a very scientific answer, but it's kind of, I guess, what happened.
Yeah. It's a mindset shift, huh? It's
Yeah.
just, yeah. But you certainly got that going and amazing work.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah. So, well, keep going with the page. It's amazing. I mean,
Thank you.
you're doing great work. It's very insightful and you're inciting discussions that are extremely valuable. And you put a lot of work into it, I can tell.
I
And you're great
appreciate
on
that.
camera, honestly.
Thanks,
So
man.
it's
I appreciate
impressive.
it.
So I
Thank you.
guess just put your face out there, right? As a musician, like how would you encourage musicians to just put their face on camera and start putting stuff out there?
I would say to smile.
Hmm.
That's like that sounds like really weird, but that was one of the things that clicked. Like one, I think jazz takes itself way too seriously. Like like I think like between the jazz snobs and the jazz police and people whose album covers are like all brooding, like, man, I'm a serious jazz musician. I think it's a little bit over the top. So once I got past that, that helped. And then because I think jazz is very intellectual, and we as musicians want our music to be appreciated and people to see like the depth of meaning. And I think that's all well and good. But if you just are quiet about that and don't share that and just assume that people are going to know that about your music, and you just, the only thing people see is like a quiet, stern musician, I don't think it's really inviting. So when I started making a lot of reels, I was like, I should smile. like like that makes you seem more relatable, and people want to watch your video. If they are scrolling by and they see someone smiling, like a genuine smile, it's a lot more inviting than like someone not staring at, or like just staring at their guitar, even if they're playing something really impressive. So that's, I think, one just big piece of advice. Smile. You might feel weird at the beginning doing it, but smile. Um, and then second, yeah, if you don't put yourself out there, you will not be discovered. Like I think that's a hard truth, but we hear all these stories from like the 1950s or 1960s about this guy playing this bar gig, and this, and there's the executive of Capitol Records ready to give you a deal. Like that's not going to happen. So I think people, they need to put themselves out there, and you need to do it consistently. Like I remember seeing I can't remember what the stats are, but how many albums go out on Spotify a day? Like it is so discouraging. Like you're just screaming into the void. So it's like if you don't consistently show up, you're just gonna, it's gonna be glossed over. Um, so yeah, put yourself out there and smile. Make good music and know the value of your good music. Again, like there's a lot that you can go too far and become too prideful and too arrogant. I think everyone needs to wrestle with that in a healthy degree. But I think you can put yourself out there, smile, make good music, and whatever I said, while maintaining integrity and humility. So,
And this stuff is real in the sense that, I mean, other than the businesses that you're running on the side in terms of getting these projects going with the book and This Is Jazz and so on and so forth, have there been other opportunities that have arisen for you from appearing with your face on camera so many times on your Instagram page? Are there other opportunities that have come your way because of that?
yeah, I'm on the Virginia Commission for the Arts teaching artist roster, which is a very fancy way of saying the Virginia Commission for the Arts will streamline grant money to me. I applied to be on that roster. So I've had people message me saying like, "Hey, we love what you're doing," da 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 da. And some of them have happened to be in Virginia, so I've been able to negotiate um, grants where I get to come down to Richmond and play. So there's definitely been some good things that have come out of that. I think also the Instagram thing works as kind of social credibility, or it's like a social currency. At first, when I blew up on Instagram, I thought that this would be like a monetary thing, like, oh, now I'm gonna get all of that YouTube money that I hear all about. um, but I'm sure, as you know, with Instagram as well, it's not really monetarily lucrative as it is more for like networking. So
Yeah.
like I've been able to DM Aaron Parks and say like, "Hey, I love your stuff. Can we talk?" And I feel like if I didn't have that follower count and that blue check mark, that would have been ignored. So I think for people that are kind of weighing, do I want to put in so much effort to grow social media? Um, I would say the benefit for me hasn't been as much the money, more about the connections that I'm able to make. So,
Yeah. I think people need to understand that, right? There's no money in the media itself, but it's the other things that come with it, right? So,
right. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, and it is disappointing that you put a lot of work in and nothing comes back to you that way, but they are promoting you for free, so there's an exchange
Yeah.
there in a sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
So,
yeah, I mean, it was a hard lesson to learn. But it definitely has, through it, has sharpened my skills about digital marketing and entrepreneurship. Like, okay, well, how do I transform this following into something meaningful, or more meaningful? Not to say that the following isn't meaningful, but
Hmm. And when you first, just a couple more things. When you first put yourself out there on camera with your face on camera on the internet, was that difficult for you? And did you get better at that over time?
yeah,
Or yeah.
yeah. I used to be so against social media, like in college and stuff. I'd be like, look at those ridiculous people doing selfies, and I'd just like bash it all day long and say like the art is merit enough, and that's good, and then yeah, I felt so awkward being alone in a room talking to like a piece of glass and plastic and metal. Like, yeah, totally felt foreign. Um, and then the smiling thing felt foreign, and all sorts of things. But yeah, as you do it more, um, you get more used to it. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, props to you. You've gotten great at it and you're putting this stuff out consistently. It's not easy, but it looks amazing. And you have a great energy on camera, which is hard to do. It's hard to do.
I
So,
appreciate it.
yeah, great work. And check out Quentin's book. Get the
Yeah.
book. And yeah, let's get the book, How to Teach
Yeah.
Jazz and
How to teach
Improvisation.
jazz and improvisation. Yeah. So it's for teachers that don't have a strong jazz background. So a lot of teachers have a classical upbringing or traditional background, and they might recognize that jazz is cool, but they don't know how to teach it, especially when it comes to improv. So this is specifically written to help teachers in that. So it's two parts. It has 7 songs that has a teacher duet, and the student part, the pedagogy is like these notes are always going to sound cool on this chord progression. So it gets rid of the fear of playing a wrong note, which also stops a lot of students. So whatever you make up with this is going to sound cool on that. And it does that for 7 different songs, 7 different jazz styles, and then gives you techniques to expand and develop. And then the first half of the book is like everything a teacher would want to know to teach jazz effectively and to grow in jazz. Like if you have a jazz student that wants to do jazz band in middle school, how do you tell them to comp? How does jazz harmony work? It's not just for pianists and guitarists, it's for all instruments. The parts are in F and B flat and E flat and bass clef and all of that. But yeah, it's like a full resource to grow in jazz, how to practice, how to improvise. And the play alongs are on Spotify and YouTube for free. Also, thisisjazz.com for free. So yeah, it's meant to make jazz more accessible. So
Awesome. And if it's anything like your Instagram page, because I noticed with your Instagram page, you explain things clearly and understandably. It's just very easy to understand what you're trying to get across. So if your
yeah,
book is anything like that, it's going to be amazing. So check out the book and
thank you.
check out Quentin's Instagram page. It is at what's the handle again?
At Quentin Walston.
At Quentin Walston. Yes. At just no underscores or anything like that. Just
No
at Quentin
underscores.
Walston.
Right.
Great. Okay. Thanks, Quentin. Really
Yeah,
appreciate you
thank you
being
so
here.
much. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for
And
taking the time. It was amazing. So really appreciate you doing it.
absolutely.
Great.
Thanks a lot. All right.